Hi, welcome back to the Mom and Co podcast. My name is Bopa Mambakam, and I am your host. Today, I am going to take you on a journey of my education and my career, almost like a resume, because I thought about this just recently when I had to speak at a immigrant entrepreneur summit, and I realized I had not done a resume in since 2007. So I decided to write it out in a note card. And as I wrote it down on a note card, I had to even highlight, I think the pink is like work, and then the green was babies, and the blue was my dad. And this is between 2007 to 2019. I mean, crunching everything in here was eye-opening for me to see what I've been through. And I always said that when I started dating Sully, I realized that my life just went fast. And 3 years ago, when he asked me what would I do without him, it made me slow down for the first time since being together. And when I slowed down, I started to really see a lot of things that I kind of buried and didn't want to bring to the surface because I'm married to this man that knows how to do everything for me, and until he couldn't. And so it forced me to really dig a little bit deeper on who I am and where I've been and where my roots came from, and so it took me back to a lot of my childhood and my experience in becoming a mom and doing things in my life and not fully understanding it at the time, and to really kind of now in my 40s to really see it in a different light and a different perspective. And so it's been like watching a movie of somebody else's life, but it's actually me. And that's kind of crazy because you wonder how that person survived all those seasons without understanding what they went through. But that's kind of also the reason why, Sully pressed that on me, because it was tiring for him to carry that load that he could no longer carry for me. And so it has been such a blessing. And I love doing this podcast because it feels like a confessional where no one's here. It's just me, my stories and my thoughts and my reflection. And I want to go back to when I graduated high school, and then I went to college, and something I never really talked about a lot. And then it took me and where it took me and where I'm at today, as a real estate agent. So as I'm transitioning in my own life right now, I wanted to just go back in time and see where it all started. And going back to all of it led me to dreams that I kind of buried too. So that's why I love reflecting, because it gives you the opportunity to see where things kind of stopped, and it allows you to see patterns too. And for me, that has been the most healing. Because for a while there, I always thought something was wrong with me. And going through this process has allowed me to heal and to understand that I've gone through a lot, and that I needed to meet myself where I'm at. And these last few years, I've been able to process so many things that I couldn't at the time it all happened. And I want to share it, because I think that if I share my story, I think that others can hear their own stories in my stories. And I think that it will help you unpack parts of your life that maybe you also buried and never talked about, because life moves on. It goes fast, So I graduated high school in 2001. And that summer, my parents took me to Cambodia and to see my family. My dad's side of the family that all lives there. And it was my first time meeting my extended family. And it was very eye-opening in so many ways, because being born into two worlds, I'm the only one that's born in America out of my family. And there's 8 of us siblings. And So there is always this pressure, right? This pressure to like be someone that my family couldn't be. But there are so many other responsibilities on my end from since I was a little girl. I always had to be the protector of my nieces and nephews and the babysitter. And so I took on adult roles very young. Um, and that just became my natural thing, like even into now. Like my natural state is always to take care of people. So learning in the last 3 years to create boundaries and to give myself time, while still, like I'm Asian. Family's huge. So I know sometimes in the Western ways of teaching, they're like, cut these people off, and it's like, you can't, because they are who helped made you who you are today. They shaped you. And so like in the Asian world, I feel like we're taught to be respectful of where we come from, even if it created something that we had to figure out in our later age. And going on this journey allowed me to see so deeply in my family that I was able to understand them more now than I did when it happened. And so, and I knew like when I was in Cambodia in 2001, that changed my whole world, because my family always told me that I had this opportunity, and I am, sometimes ungrateful for things. But you can't help what you're born into. Like, I didn't ask to be born into this compared to what my siblings were. And so, but how do you say that as a kid, and how do you recognize that? And so when I went to Cambodia in 2001, I got to finally see what my sisters and brother was talking about. However, it was not in the condition of war that they lived through. So like I didn't fully see it, the struggle, right? But what I realized when I was there, I remember just crying a lot because I felt sorry for these kids that were coming up to us. And I thought that they were living this life that I couldn't live. And so, like, projecting my sorriness for them, looking back, it just wasn't the right thing to do, because before I left, I was there for a month. I recognized something very profound, is that they were happy with how little they had. And although I thought I couldn't live like that, I catch myself being in my 40s and was like, that was the ultimate gift. You have everything you need. It's all right there. And that's something that has really came back to me as I reflected on my journey of like going to Cambodia and seeing a whole nother world that was different from mine. And I realized that sometimes living in America, we're always chasing these things that look like success. And sometimes it can be someone else's dream of what success looks like, right? And so I think that I've come to this like realization that sometimes when we get lost, going back to the basics of what we enjoyed as children becomes the luxury of what we are missing in today's world. Sometimes the chaos allows us to not see as much. And when we slow down to really understand what is truly happening, do we understand that we have everything we ever needed right in front of our face? And everyone's life situation is different. And can we, fix everything that is happening in this world? We cannot. But we can always do something from home, and it starts with us. And I believe that everything we do, if we can work on ourselves and look inwards, then we can go out into the world and do more. But I was trying to do more without going inwards. And so I came to a point in my life where it was like everything was crashing down right in front of my face. And so it was just really nice to be able to go back and take a look at that moment in my life and being able to see another world that my family came from with my parents. And it was one of the greatest gifts that my parents ever gave me. And I do look forward to doing the same for my children. And my oldest will be a senior next year. Oh, not next year, but well, yeah, he'll graduate in 2027. My goals and my dreams is to take the family to Cambodia to see where our family came from. I hope my mom is still here to be able to do that with us. And on this journey, I've also learned to kind of understand that when there's life, there's death, and that this whole theme of my podcast has been loss. And I carried the grief for a very long time, not understanding what I had gone through. And so but just last year, I started to walk back to my life, and I did videos just like this, and I put it on YouTube, and I shared some of the things that I was ashamed of that I did or went through, and things that I was still grieving. And in those videos, I still have them. I just took them down from YouTube. I cried because it was like probably my first time really talking out loud in what happened and what I felt. And I was doing it kind of probably, I've never been to therapy, but I would assume that it's like talking to someone in therapy. But for me, it was like talking to myself in front of a camera and just being honest for the first time. And I think that me being honest with myself and what I've gone through in life really has been the thing that has set me free. It was one of the most painful things to look at myself in the mirror and say what I went through, and to see myself in a different light too. But as I've gone on this journey, it's led me to recognize that I have to give myself grace for doing the best with what I knew. And the more we know, the better we do, right? And so me stepping up and sharing on a platform and letting people in on my thoughts, my experience, is courageous. Something that I've always been afraid to do. And I hope, again, my whole point in all of this is that if you hear my story, you can also hear your own in it. And that is my whole goal for this podcast. And at the same time, I didn't realize it, but it was helping me heal and helping me understand what I've gone through. So in 2001, I graduated, and then I came back. To Des Moines, and then I went to Ames. I went to Iowa State. I was going to school for elementary education. How did I choose elementary education? Well, I really didn't know what I wanted to be. But the things that I did want it to be was I wanted to be a pediatrician because I loved babies, but I didn't know anything about like the anatomy of your body. So that was out. I wanted to be a counselor, but I didn't know how to get there. Like, this is just me being honest. But a teacher, I wanted to be too. And so I was like, elementary education. I love elementary kids. Like, I have lots of nieces and nephews. Maybe I'll get one of them. And I remember envisioning my name being Miss Mom. And I thought, like, oh my God, that's kind of weird, judging my name as well. And I also wanted to be a store owner. And a social worker. So what's so crazy, I was in some sort of high school program where I was able to job shadow a social worker. I was able to job shadow a boutique store owner. Um, I was able to job shadow, right? Just those two things. Yeah, just those two things. Here's what I found out about the social worker thing: high stress. Like, it was like so many confidential things, and I still liked it, but I was kind of scared of it. Um, the boutique store, I remember it was like on 42nd Street, and I went to Job Shadow, and I remember thinking, this is boring. Like, there's no customers coming in. And what's so crazy is when I take you guys back to me opening up my salon, that feeling that I got a job shadowing this boutique also came back in real life. Like, I've been here before. I've seen this, you know? So, yeah, so those are the kind of jobs that I want. And I want to be a makeup artist. I wanted to be a makeup artist because I was not allowed to go do a lot of things. And so I had an older sister, and she always had makeup, like not a lot, but she had makeup in the bathroom, and I always got into her stuff. And so I would steal her clothes and wear it. I would put on makeup just for fun on a Friday night or something. And so when I would go to Seattle, where all my family lives, anytime there was a wedding, I would always do everyone's eyeliner. And so everyone was like, you're going to be a makeup artist. And I think when you hear things, people tell you these things, you really start to believe it. And so I really thought I was going to be a makeup artist. And going back to that, actually, let's go back to this. When I was younger, Cambodian people always told me that I would I should be in karaoke videos. And so when I went to Cambodia for the first time, the only thing that I really saw of Cambodia was like photos my dad brought back home from one of his trips to Cambodia, and videos of Cambodian karaoke. And I just remember thinking, like, I did not want to be in those videos. And but when I was on the airplane looking down, and when I saw like the red clay, I remember just crying because I recognized that that's what I've been seeing on TV, and not on TV, but on the videos. And I'm here. Like, it felt really unreal. I don't know if you've ever been places where you've never been and you envision it, but when you get there, it either sometimes matches what you had in your head, and then sometimes it doesn't. Like for me, when I went to Las Vegas for the first time, it was not what I had in my head. And I remember walking on the strip, and I was just like, that's not what I had. Like, it took me a while to process that part. But Cambodia was what I envisioned. And so visualizing things and actually meeting it can be a surreal moment when it feels exactly what you saw, and then also when it is not anything like you thought. So when I was in college, go back to that, I lived in the dorms, and I did see people that I've known. Like, I ran into people I hadn't seen since middle school. I saw some high school people, but I was really scared. Living on my own with a roommate from Minnesota, and my best friend, she had an apartment, so she didn't live in the dorms, and so I would go stay at her place all the time. Like, I just always wanted to be close to her because I was so scared to be on my own. And now I look back, when I was on my own, oh my gosh, this is a funny story to share, but last year I went to Ames with my daughter, Valentina. At the time, she was 10. And when we were there, I was driving to Target. That's where I used to work when I lived in Ames. And all of a sudden, something hit me. I was like, oh my gosh, I think I went on a date. That's how clueless I was. I was very clueless on like if I was hanging out with like the opposite sex. I didn't know if like they liked me or not, but like for me, we were friends. But as the more that I'm learning about myself and learning about what I didn't know as I'm driving, I was just like, I think I went on a date there. But like, I never like try to ever talk to them again. They try to reach out to me, but like, I'm like, we just had dinner. That's it. Like, because I never really went on dates like that. So I didn't know what it was. And so as I was just driving, I was like, and then I just thought to myself, I'm like, how did I not know that? Oh my gosh, you know? But then again, that's like my whole life. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just in it, and I didn't understand the purpose. I didn't understand why I was there. And so going back into that place, it really just kind of made me realize like, wow, you were like so sheltered, thrown to the wild, and you're going to figure it out. And that has happened multiple times in my life. I always felt like dying, but someone always came and saved me. I ended up dating a boy within a few months of starting college. And he kind of made me feel protected. Like I wasn't as scared. I had someone, and it almost feels like looking back, it always like it felt like what I have now, like almost like a marriage, although like we were really young. And but that's how I saw my family. I didn't see my family date. We weren't allowed to date. So I saw that you just live together and you spend time together and you do all these things together. And so at the time, that's the person that kind of came and swooped me up and made me feel like I was okay until I wasn't. And so when we broke up, it was actually very similar to like I didn't know how to handle a lot of it. And so like I remember just giving up on everything I had. And so I wasn't doing well in school either because I was too busy focusing on my relationship. And so I always try to, like I have my own thing about it, because then I remember some of the words that my aunt said to me before I went to college. She did say, don't think about boys, focus on your education. Boys are a distraction. And I remember thinking to myself, how would you know? Like, you guys are old. Like, she knew more than I thought, because I found out later that my aunt, she had a hard time with school too, and my dad convinced her to keep at it, and he held her accountable. And she credits my dad for being the person to keep her going when she wanted to quit, because she like didn't pass her test or something. And so she went to go stay with my mom and my dad. And hearing her story, now I understand where her advice came from. But when they don't share their stories with us, all we're thinking is like, they don't know. They're just judging. They're just putting their fear on us. But in reality, they've probably lived enough to be able to give us that advice. And so going through that has taught me to really be honest with my children and with my stories. And I realized too, when I tell Sullivan, my oldest, the story of me going to college, about like my fear, because I didn't have the guidance because I was the first to go. And at the time too, I didn't even know how to ask for help when I didn't understand something. So I kept struggling internally, and to the point where I didn't know how to like get out of it. And same thing with like adding the layer of like dating and breaking up and stuff on top of what I was already struggling with. It was just like I couldn't catch a breath, and so it was just like the easiest thing to do for me at the time was just to give up, and like and come home and be ashamed of what I couldn't do, because I knew the pressure of being this American born child that was going to be the first to go to college was a huge deal, and it was a huge pressure. But I wasn't developed in a way that would help me succeed in it. And I didn't know simple things such as learning how to communicate, time management, asking for help when you need it. I didn't have those because we weren't taught it, and we weren't taught it because my family didn't have to live like that. Really, they've always abided by whatever was told by them, right, to them. And so as I reflect back, I could see where I struggled and where I could do better, right? And so then now being a mom and my son is going to be a senior next year, it makes me know that I need to work on the little things with him, not these big grand things to get to college. It's these little things of like, say hi to your teacher, ask how they're doing, talk to your peers, ask how they're doing, where does their family come from, like all these things. Get to know people, be the first to engage in conversations, even if you're scared. Be curious. And if you don't know something, most of us don't know a lot of stuff, ask. And if you feel like you're bothering somebody, because I always felt that way, I always thought that was bothering people, it doesn't matter, because that's on them. Maybe they're irritated because they were doing something or whatever, but you're always learning from each other. And so I always try to tell my kids to stay curious and to be open to receiving feedback, to not be afraid to ask questions, and not be afraid to say you don't know what you don't know. I think that has been one of the biggest things for me, is being able to say, I don't know what I don't know, and I want to know. And so I think when you do that, it allows you to be open to learning. And I think for a lot of my life, I blocked it because I was pretending to be someone that I wasn't. And as I reflect back a lot on my journey, I just realized like these are things I want to talk about, because if I can share this vulnerability and allow others to see themselves, if this is you, how I was able to get out of it. And saying out loud that you just don't know what you don't know, I think it's the first step. And so when I told my son about my experience in college, he got scared to go to college. And so like when we were talking about like kind of plans and what he's going to do, and I've always, because of my own experience, I never really put pressure on my children to do the same things I do, or I understand that people can find different paths to get to where they need to go. And I understand too that your age has nothing to do with where you need to be at the time you are at. You're right where you need to be. And so when we start talking to my son about what he plans on doing and stuff like that, he really just like, I don't want to go to college. I'm like, okay, fair enough. You know why? And he just said, I just want to use my hands. I'm like, fair enough. Like I always think that, there's so many options of what you can do with your life. And we were going to support our kids no matter what, and not put the pressure of anything on them. Besides that, they need to be doing something. They just can't be doing nothing. And so we went to, I think it's University of Minnesota or Minnesota State. I don't know which one it is, but we went for my daughter's dance, and he came with my oldest, and he saw somebody giving a tour of the college. And from there, he's like, is this what college looks like? Is this what they do? Like they kind of like have their own schedule and stuff. I was like, yeah. So then I was able to tell him some more stuff about it. And he's like, I actually think I want to go now. And I was like, great. Like if you want to, let's plan, let's think about it. Let's get ourselves like, mentally prepared for what's to come if this is what you want to do. But so we've been in that conversation now, which is really awesome too, because again, I'm able to be the person that I needed for my child. And that, so sometimes like if I wasn't able to finish something or complete something or be successful at something, there's always a lesson that is being taught, and I get to use it today. And momming is something that I really take a lot of pride in, and I get to be that person for my kids and take what I know and be able to share it. So when I left in 2003, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So I got a job. I got a job at Let me take my gum out.